I think that people should be aware that each time they get emotional on something, there is a risk that they are being played. Each time they want to have a very fast reaction. This is a sign to cool down and verify.
Welcome to the DIACOMET podcast. Today we are speaking with Sophie Malibeaux, very experienced journalist who is head of the fact-checking department at Radio France Internationale and deputy editor-in-chief at this media outlet. For many years you were a reporter from Asia and Africa as well, and now you most recently focus on social media disinformation and fact-checking.
In between, I was heading the international section in Radio France Internationale, and it's 8 years I decided to work specifically on disinformation.
Okay. Can you explain briefly why did you decide to make this leap into this area?
Oh, there's a very good reason. It was during the time of the war in Syria. I noticed at some point we could not send journalists on the ground because they had been murdered and kidnapped, and it became quite difficult to reach the worst areas of the fighting in Syria. I could see how much disinformation, fake news, was being aired by the warring parties. And so I thought that this was becoming an issue in itself. And also, because of that difficult access to the real ground, we had to develop ways to investigate online. And so both these two factors, but really the lack of access to the facts on the ground, made me be interested in other techniques of journalism, and also to try to make some in-depth analysis of what disinformation is hiding and who's behind disinformation and what is the logic that makes disinformation successful.
And how do you see the role of journalists and media in limiting the spread of disinformation? Do you see the role as the most important?
Yes, they are in front line because the whole system is changing, and they have a responsibility to understand this change and to find their place in it, even though we are very late collectively because things were starting undercover. So it took some time before we realize what happens. And then it takes even more time to have the means to counter it. So we're extremely late, but if we don't do something, it's the end of it. It's the end of information, it's the end of democracy, it's just the end of it. So I'm pretty convinced we can do something, because what I say always is that people, they don't like to be cheated. So we have to open eyes of the people of how they are being cheated, and how these great platforms that were supposed to make us all communicate, all the world together, they became just the tools of a few kind of crazy visionaries who want to impose a certain society. And so we have to explain who are they, the owner of those platforms, what they do, what motivates them. It's not, they're not there for the general interest, obviously. So we have to explain economically, judicial side of things. Even the concept of freedom is being now totally perverted. I always take this example of the circulation in the streets. You're not free to cross a red light, because if you cross a red light when another car is coming, you'll just die. So this is easy to understand, that freedom to exist has to have some kind of boundaries to make it exist. And they pretend, so they do pretend that freedom is totally absolute with no regulation, nothing. No, it's not true. It's a lie. It's a big lie of this concept of freedom, and the big lie behind that pervert the whole system. The big lie on freedom is conditioning the whole system, and it's this way that they trick people. The people now, they're only free to give their personal data to everybody, and those personal data are being used. They are like a gold mine. They are being used to do some personal targeting, to influence people who don't even see with their own eye how they are played by this system and this economic system. So it's all motivated by money making, and we have to know about it. Once you know about it, okay, at least you can have some resilience building. If you don't even know about it, you're just being played without knowing. I think that's our role as journalists, to expose the system. And then whose role it is to make those good platforms.
And how do you see these recent European steps, for instance, the Digital Services Act and similar?
I made many interviews with experts on the DSA, and I don't say it's perfect, it's perfectionable. But it's like democracy, you know. Democracy is full of mistakes, it's full of defect, but it's always perfectionable. And it has to be always in debate. But real debate, not a fake debate. Not a debate with things which don't exist.
In one of your interviews with the media, you mentioned that fact-checking is an unbalanced battle. Can you explain this a little bit?
Yes, because it's a matter of speed, and fake news is so easy to make, easier and easier, technically more and more sophisticated, and so we cannot match that. Because when you work with the real world, with real people that are not just 2 clicks in your machine, you need to call somebody, you need to verify things, and you don't verify things just once. You cross information in many ways to be really sure. It takes time. It takes time. And also when you send journalists on the ground, it takes time and money. So that's why I say it's a totally asymmetric war. It's like in the war, you have the improvised device on the street. You can have a tank. It doesn't matter. You have a totally improvised device that is going to explode nearby. It's the same thing. It's an asymmetrical war. But I don't say because it's asymmetric, we will necessarily lose it. No, I don't think so. I think we'll make it in the end. I'm very totally determined with education from school time, with efforts of the media to talk to a large public. You know what I say? Okay, sometimes we debunk something, we know it's too late. But it doesn't matter, because next time people will realize, oh, last time what I saw, I thought it was the real thing, and somebody is proving me, like with very convincing and transparent method, they are proving me that I believed something that was not. After a few times like this, you can think that people will start to be more careful. I believe it will be like this.
Based on your experiences, are there any groups in society that are more vulnerable to disinformation?
No, I don't think. I'm quite convinced that we are all fragile, because what it does, it is so perverse, disinformation. It's more than just a couple of fake news. It is so perverse that it is now feeding the AI chatbot. So all this negationist content, many AI chatbots are fed with fake news, and when you know that young people, they mix up search engine and chatbot, that's the first thing the teacher should now tell their student. Beware of the difference of the functioning of a search engine and a chatbot. Even a search engine is not perfect, but still we still know what we're getting. But the chatbot, it's the big cloud of the unknown, how things are processed. So it's extremely dangerous.
As you may know, our project DIACOMET is focused on ethical communication in the online environment and building civic resilience and participation. So in this context, do you have any tips for citizens? How can they make sure they are not spreading, believing this information? How can they be part of the solution instead?
I think that people should be aware that each time they get emotional on something, there is a risk that they are being played. Each time they want to have a very fast reaction, this is a sign to cool down and verify. So people should just forget this share button that goes on emotion. That's the first thing that would really help a big part of the problem. I don't say that there's no atrocities and scandalous things that need to be known by everybody, of course, but just before you share it, check it. It doesn't seem so complicated to me. It should a red light, Okay, I've got an emotion. So we all learn as we grow up to control our emotions. We don't do punch in the face of people each time they say something we don't like. It should be the same on the social network. A punch in the face or the opposite, like put them with a crown like they're telling the very truth and you don't even know what they're telling and where they got that information. And the Epstein scandal is very interesting with that because there's so much real stuff and at the same time so much also instrumentalization of this affair. So this is really, for me, it's going to be something that is going to give us a lot of work. And already the very big lie is to say that the fact-checkers didn't want to see that scandal. No, it's not true. All our media have reported of what we had about this Epstein affair when it started and what we could have from it. But that came this huge mass of data, and that's where it became more complicated because in the middle of it, people are finding a way to use that to attack their neighbor or to attack their government or whatever. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not at all. So we're going to have to make the difference between what is the real case, what is the fake one. And also, I think to escape recommendation algorithm, it's interesting to go see the new platforms that for the moment they don't have a critical mass of users. They don't have maybe enough people, but if we're many in platforms that have a different way of functioning, it's going to be interesting. And I'm quite sure, I think there will be in the coming years platforms that are more and more interesting, platforms that are a bit specialized in the interest we have, like if you're a scientist and if you're large public and go on some platforms that are good for science or good for law or good for nature or climate. I think that there will be lots of resources that we can find if we try to escape those monsters of the GAFAM, which are now kind of having this phenomenon we call emprise. They grab us with their algorithm. We're going to have to escape from that. It's an imprisonment. It's going backwards to the very obscure time.
This is definitely one of the choices that each person has. Where do they participate? Which platform do they choose?
Yes, we have to realize when we have a real choice or a fake choice. Now, in this world, we always have an alternative world, as would say Donald Trump and his entourage. There's an alternative world, which is not the real one, but which is pushed by people for some type of interest, geopolitical interest, business interest. Okay, they have this world, and then our world, where we live in actually, is different from that. So we cannot be imprisoned in the fake alternative world.
Thank you so much for talking with us.
My pleasure.